Developing this morning, a Venezuelan court has now directed Venezuelan Vice President Delcy Rodriguez to assume the powers and duties of acting president. This comes after longtime leader Nicolas Maduro and his wife were captured by U.S. military forces after early Saturday morning strikes in Caracas. They are now in the United States to face criminal charges.
We have local 10's Trent Kelly in the newsroom with the details on what could happen next. Trent.
Well, Alexis, Rodriguez called Maduro's...
The f is this setup? It's literally the exact same kidnap and puppet play they did to Haiti. Yeah, but that shit didn't work.
Attention, a, quote, kidnapping, and demanded his release, adding that Maduro is, quote, the sole president of Venezuela. And that appears to contradict a statement made by President Donald Trump, who said Rodriguez was willing to work with the U.S.
New images showing Nicolas Maduro.
What the f? Why is this all over the place? I wanted the goddamn press conference.
Called the U.S. operation barbaric.
Único presidente de Venezuela.
Declaring Nicolas Maduro is the only president of Venezuela. Known to many in the country simply as Delcy.
Okay, this is not the press conference. What the f? What are these tabs?
Venezuela's Supreme Court has...
Orientalist, man. The way they're talking about her. Like, no, she's a politician. Nobody would talk about her with this language if she was in a Western democracy. You know? Okay, regime enforcer, faithfully, defended the tenets of... Like, no one would talk this way. There are tons and tons of longtime American politicians who have been hardline ideologues. They do not get talked about this way.
And frequently warn the country about the threat of foreign intervention.
Damn. She sure was cooking with that one.
Crucially, as energy minister, she also has been a steady hand in funneling Venezuela's dwindling energy revenues to the regime. Seen here last month with state workers, she says,
Hay que decirle al señor Trump.
"We have something to tell Mr. Trump. Venezuela doesn't owe the U.S. anything." And yet, Rodriguez has for many years been sanctioned by Canada, the EU, and the United States. CNN attempted to question her in 2016 after a CNN investigation uncovered a scheme to illegally sell Venezuelan passports out of the country's embassy in Iraq. Rodriguez, then the foreign minister, refused to comment to CNN on every occasion. In keeping with her political pedigree, Rodriguez has a less than subtle message for the Trump administration as she demanded Maduro's release.
In keeping with her political pedigree. Oh, you illegally kidnapped her president after bombing the Capitol and killing 80 people. In keeping with her pedigree, she didn't like it. God, our media's slime. This is why it's so important to watch mainstream media. It's to hate them. It's to despise that. You have to hate them. These people are so evil. They're demons. You have to hate them. You have to learn to recognize how they talk and why they talk, because this is why the needles shift the way they do, you know?
Involvement in any future transition in Venezuela will be challenging. Paula Newton, CNN.
Joining me now from Oxfordshire is Vanessa Neumann, a Venezuelan-American diplomat, business owner, author and political theorist. Vanessa, great to see you again. It's been a while since you and I have spoken. I know it's been a moment...
Don't trust you, not even a little bit. What's your full name?
Paula, diplomat, business owner. Joining me now from Oxfordshire is Vanessa Neumann, a Venezuelan...
Vanessa Neumann. Let's see. A Venezuelan-American diplomat, business owner, author, and political theorist, president and founder of Asymmetrica, a political risk research and strategic communications firm headquartered in New York City and Washington, D.C. Okay, so she's a federal agent. Gotcha. I wanted to know, like, obviously they're not going to have a regular Venezuelan on. They need to have, like, an operative of the deep state. I just wanted to see, like, what her pedigree was, if you will, you know? Least nationally compromised Venezuelan American
diplomat, business owner, author, and...
Oh my God, wait. During the 2019 Venezuelan presidential crisis, a plenary session of the Venezuelan National Assembly approved her appointment as ambassador for John Guaido. She was appointed ambassador and chief of mission for Venezuela to the Court of St. James in the United Kingdom. The administration of Nicolas Maduro does not recognize Guaido's diplomats. So she's not just a Fed. She was like one of the agents of an attempted coup in Venezuela 7 years ago. Fantastic. Fantastic. Oh my You have to hate the media, dude. You have to hate the media. You have to. Literally, every time they bring someone on, you Google their name, they are an agent of the deep state. They worship Moloch, they drink blood, they f kids, every time. Every time. Every time.
Political theorist. Vanessa, great to see you again. It's been a while since you and I have spoken. I know it's been a moment of celebration for many Venezuelans.
Worship Moloch, what? No, I know I'm dipping into the sloppyism a little bit. It's just like, it's true. And also, they're so evil, man. Like, come on. There's no excuse for this. There's no world in which the people responsible for these bookings do not know that they are only promoting one side of the story. I wish they would do it honestly. Like, if you had this woman on to speak, that's not necessarily bad. Just say, like, hey, to be clear, this woman is like an operative of the state and attempted a coup. She was literally one of the agents of a couing party in Venezuela in 2019. Like, I don't know, man. That's a pretty big deal. But you know what they called her? They called her a business owner and an author. Oh, how sweet.
In and outside of the country, and also a moment of deep anxiety from the Venezuelans I've been speaking to inside the country. Just give us a sense of what you're feeling first and what the mood is from what you gather inside the country.
Indeed, and it's such a pleasure to be with you again. I've missed you. So the mood in Venezuela is one of concern right now, and confusion more than anything. So there are several things. One, everybody is delighted by the
what a weird accent, Venezuelan British,
by the photograph of Maduro, handcuffed and with the blindfolds and the earmuffs on the Iwo Jima, heading back to the United States. It reminded me of the capture of Abimael Guzman, who later The Shining Path was put in a cage. It made him human. It took away the terror and all this fear that Venezuelans have had with these 18,000 political prisoners and extrajudicial killings and tortures. He seemed like a superhuman who could never be captured. And now we know he is human. He can be captured. People within the Maduro enclave can be captured, and we can one.
Holy shit. You know what her doctoral dissertation was? When she received her PhD from Columbia University, objectively the most evil university in the world, just judging by the people who came from it. Her doctoral dissertation was titled, quote, Autonomy and Legitimacy of States, a Critical Approach to Foreign Intervention. That's not a joke. This is her whole life. From beginning to end, this is her entire life. And just everything. She lives it and breathes it. Regime change in Venezuela. It's all she is. Well, what are you supposed to do with this, man? I don't... This thesis establishes the ethical basis and parameters for intervention by examining what I define as the autonomy and legitimacy of states. In this analysis, I draw upon classic contract theory of government, among other theories, in order to engage in the current literature. The overall contention is that national sovereignty is a human right that is infringed by foreign intervention. However, sovereignty is a right only insofar as it is legitimate. When a government and/or a state has been deemed illegitimate, then intervention is permissible. This is her whole life. Literally, like, lives it, breathes it, that's it. It's just this. Using the exact same language here that people have been using for Maduro's rule over, with regards to legitimacy. Chapter 4, subsection, the challenges presented by the Chavez government. Subsection, oil as the root of Venezuela's evils. Chapter 5, subsection, strategies for intervention. The proportionality and presentation of sanctions. Carrot or stick. Military action as a last resort. Intervention by whom? Unilateralism versus collective action. Legitimate and autonomous sovereignty. Political legitimacy and the responsibility to protect. Procedural justice in foreign intervention. Human rights interventions and their preemption. Sometimes I wish they made it a little harder. I'm starting to lose my sanity. Yeah, no kid. It really does. It really is a joke, man. It's like a quirky RPG where you run into people whose entire lives are defined by some weird obsession that is also the key to defeating them or whatever. It's Jane CIA. Her whole life, her whole job is just this. And CNN introduced her as a business owner and an author. I know most of the people watching this are on board with me on this. I know some people watching me right now, at least a couple hundred watching me right now, are more milquetoast liberals. And look, I'm not saying you have to be a socialist because we found out that the media really dishonestly presented this one woman and her opinions. I'm just saying, like, if you keep your eye out for this, it happens not only all the time, it happens more often than it doesn't happen. It happens so often. And if you pay attention to it, it really, really, really makes you start to either like feel crazy or doubt the ability for us to do anything, to examine the world, to arrive at the truth of things. And it's literally like the job of these journalists is not to present information truthfully. And that is not just an individual failing or like a company-based failing. It is a structural failing that is getting worse with time.
One day have democracy again. So that's hope. That's one sentiment. On the other sentiment,
do they just have these people on call? Yes. This woman has probably appeared on CNN and other news sites, news stations, like hundreds of times. They're like, we're talking about Venezuela. Who do we call up on that? And then they look from the list of like approved people and they know, well, obviously we know which bias we want to have. So we're going to call in her. Yeah, 100%. A bunch of journalists have her in a Rolodex. Her job is to respond to their calls. That's it. As you know, she gets paid for it, not for the appearances, but for book sales. That's why all these people have books, you know? It would be really obvious that they were stooges if they got paid to appear on CNN and there would be a paper trail. So instead, they write their shitty books. They get to promote it on mainstream media, which guarantees some amount of income. That's their job. They have a parasitic life cycle, you know? They exist only to reaffirm bourgeois ideology when they are, trotted out for the media.
There is great concern about the fact that Delcy Rodriguez, who is not a nice woman, but is very, very intelligent. She's multilingual, fluent in English and French, and the chief negotiator. I have seen it firsthand. I haven't been fed this by the U.S. government or the Venezuelan opposition. I have been present during phone calls where people were negotiating with her to give Maduro money or to keep Maduro in power. So I am aware of that. And she will give a little dance to the Trump team who thinks...
So it sounds to me like her narrative here is that the Trump team didn't go far enough. Like we need to do even more regime change. That seems like the line she's taking here.
She will be their puppet, but she's nobody's puppet. However, that's one thing. I think they will get tired of being danced around by her, Rubio and Hegseth. And on the other hand, she faces a huge challenge because she's not a military, like Diosdado Cabello and Padrino Lopez, who's the two military, one's the head of the military and the other one is a military commander who's head of the party. They're very, very bad guys. And they will want to command whatever's left of military morale. They will want to command whatever.
Yeah, here we go. Sorry, I know I keep pausing, but I actually find what this woman's saying just as important as why she's saying it. Here, from the Wikipedia article. Neumann has published articles in the Wall Street Journal, the Daily Beast, the London Sunday Times, the Guardian, the Daily Telegraph, the Weekly Standard, Standpoint, and many other publications. That's Wikipedia saying that. She appears regularly on CNN, CNNE, Fox Business, Al Jazeera, NTN 24, Globo TV, and other networks. A regular guest on Varney & Co., she was once introduced as a panelist by a State Department official. Her written work has been used by the American Enterprise Institute. Just listing out the...
...whatever's left of military morale to...
Sorry, I'm so sorry. I also really like this section right here where, in her life, ambassador to the UK, 2019, appointed by unsuccessful would-be President John Guaido's ambassador to the United Kingdom. Returned to the private sector. Well, that didn't work. Spent my whole life crowing about a coup attempt. Got to participate in one. Didn't work out. All right, back to the private sector. Yee. Return to the helm of Asymmetrica. You took a shot at it. You miss every shot you don't take. Oh, how interesting. In a March 2022 interview with Finance Monthly, she discusses how biases and prejudices within the Western financial system pose challenges for existing markets and why she thinks advanced tech and AI, like Tintra is developing, the company the bank that she's on the board of. Oh, sorry. Yeah, she's on the board of a bank too, is key to creating efficiencies and promote development. Again, it's all this whole life, their whole life. It's their whole life. It's their whole life, man. From cradle to grave, their whole life is dedicated to evil. It's a joke. And apparently she dated Mick Jagger. Okay. She's Epstein connected through Mick Jagger. She also married William Cash, son of Sir William Cash, a British conservative politician. So make of that what you will.
To sideline her. So she may well be stabbed in the back by her own party.
So many good points that you make.
Then we're nowhere. Then we just have Diosdado Cabello and Padrino Lopez, who were really not much better than Maduro.
Yeah, look, so many good points you made. Let me start, first of all, we'll talk about Diosdado, the Interior and Defense Minister, in just a moment.
By the way, everyone in media is like this. So, like, when you're watching mainstream media or looking at people up in D.C., they're all like this. Their entire lives are just strings of connections to money and power. They don't have any real opinions. They don't have any real beliefs or hobbies. They're not real people, okay? They are a collection of special interests locked up in a flesh suit. Their job is to advocate for those interests day in and day out forever. That's it. That's all they are. There are so many ex-CIA officers hired as journalists for news companies. Yep, and you know why? It's not because they're particularly charismatic. It's not because they're good journalists. It's not because they're super handsome. It's because they're already used to being agents of the state. That's it. That's it. That's the only reason why. CIA agents are already familiar with the rules of the game, including like complicity with sensitive information and their obligations, responsibilities, and all of the corporate ties you get in the CIA, man, right? Like from day one, the CIA has been a stooge for international finance, you know, Banana Republic shit, you know, Havana Company, all that nonsense. Were her parents in intelligence? I don't know. Were they? No, of course not, because she's Venezuelan American. So she was born in Caracas. Presumably her parents were good people who regretted later in life giving birth to a literal demon. To Miguel Neumann and Antonia Danelli. Miguel Neumann, son of entrepreneurs Hans and Meladia Neumann, Jews who emigrated from Czechoslovakia to Venezuela in 1949. Wait. Oh my God. Were they like Soviet refugees or whatever? Were they no, not Nazis, guys. They're Jews. Don't be stupid. Were they fleeing the Soviet sphere of influence? That would be so funny. Newman's grandfather, Hans Neumann, co-founded Neumann Corporation Industrial Montana, which had its IPO on the New York Stock Exchange on March 23rd, 1993. Oh my God. And Fundación Neumann, a philanthropic foundation with the twin missions of cultural education and poverty alleviation programs. They also established the Instituto del Diseño Neumann, which were co-founders of the Museum of Contemporary Art and the Institute of Estudios Superiores de Administración, which under the guidance of Harvard Business School professor Mikhail Porter taught American business administration. For a quarter century, Hans Neumann was also the major shareholder of the Mosaic Company, which owns the island of Mosaic. He also owned 2 newspapers in Venezuela, the English language, the Daily Journal, and Tal Cual. Miguel Neumann was given the Order of Francisco de Miranda. Miguel Neumann founded Intercomunica, which produced a television series interviewing political leaders around the world stage and a series of books in Venezuelan cinema. They also owned a winery. She's an author. Guys, listen, okay? She's an author and a business owner. And a mother. Her family was CIA before the CIA was even a thing. It's just like, she was like, from the very beginning, you know, that his grandfather ran the corporation that owned a private island in the Grenadines, a PLC, which is in turn owned by the island's homeowners, 120 private villas, many of which are let through the Mystique Company. The company also owns a hotel and cafe on the island. We have to go deeper. What about her grandparents? Is evil like really truly hereditary? Should I be an essentialist? What the money is, so yeah, that's true. Evil might not be hereditary, but money is. In 1976, due to financial problems, tenants sold a controlling interest to the Mosaic Company to Venezuelan industrialists Hans Neumann and Alberto Herrera. Alexander did not retire until August 2008. Holy shit. I don't know, man. This shit's crazy. Survived the Holocaust by hiding in plain sight. Well, he was a Jew, and he was in Czechoslovakia, so presumably he just, like, lived his life and didn't say, like, Shabbat Shalom in front of any SS officers, right? And then he left. I wonder why he left. Well, my assumption, if he was an industrialist who fled to Venezuela after World War II, my guess is that he wanted to avoid Soviet control, right? Like, man must have come here with a lot of money. I'm sorry, this is just so fascinating to me. What about the 2 newspapers that he ran? Oh, that's nice. The Daily Journal, previously known for its editorial independence, then obtained a reputation for being a Chavista newspaper after it was bought in 2006. But then it went under. There you go. This one's listed as a leftist newspaper. In 2000? When did Neumann die? Or Miguel Neumann? All right, sorry, I got like super distracted by like the legacy. Just the fact that she came from wealthy industrialists, you know? Oh my God, Neumann worked for the Daily Journal. She worked for her family newspaper. Then in corporate planning and finance at Venezuelan petrochemicals. She worked in petrochemicals too? Oh, that's not even your field. She was an academic reviewer for SOCOM, teaching text on counterinsurgency in Colombia. It's too much for one person. It's too much for what? Sorry, what do these words mean? She literally worked with American Southern Military Command in teaching text on counterinsurgency in Colombia. Like she was speaking with the Pentagon on how to best do coups in Colombia. Oh, you're right. Sorry, not Southcom, SOCOM, special operations, not Southcom, but you know, every expert on TV is like this. It's too much for one person to do.
But let me get your thoughts first off on Delcy Rodriguez. She's now the president, VP obviously, but you've seen the Supreme Court, she's now been handed over the reins, of course, of the country. We've had President Trump saying that she will do what we ask of her, almost painting a picture, Vanessa, of her being slightly more pragmatic. What is your sense? Because what I heard from yesterday is, you know, we will never be a colony. We want Maduro back. Is this just lip service, or do you think that Chavismo is not dead?
I think.
What? Is this just lip service, or is Chavismo not dead? What? Of course she wants Maduro back. What is that? How would that be lip service? What do you? The president was just kidnapped. Of course she. What?
I think Chavismo is not dead. I think there are two different things, right? So there are Chavismo, there are a few hardcore ideologues who've always been there, always will be there, right? Who really believe in Chavismo. And don't forget, this is a country like Cuba. I know you know this extremely well, where there's a whole lot of propaganda. People within Venezuela.
As opposed to the United States, where, as we can see right now, there's no state propaganda. Absolutely none. I'm not one of those lefties on Twitter who says America is the most propagandized country in the world, because they're not. There are other countries like North Korea, Turkmenistan, Russia. There are countries that have much more aggressive like state propaganda apparatuses. But in terms of like the sheer volume and how much it like consumes every moment of your life and every element of the shape of the Overton window, I think that America's really high up there. Really, really high up there. Because we present it like this, you know? It's not propaganda. We're just bringing a businesswoman and author on.
Unless you have a smartphone, really don't have a lot of access to reality. They get fed these lines. Second of all, I think they have to keep up this line for their own survival. On the other hand, there is the aspect of their own survival, right? They are all facing drug charges. Delcy Rodriguez has done, I think was it the New York Times? Has done a PR job. Yeah, where she said, Delcy the moderate. And everybody in Venezuela was like, Delcy's not a moderate. She has been, remember what I said at the beginning, she's a negotiator and a PR person, and she's been handling her own PR clearly for her to assume this position for months and positions herself as a moderate. She can't be too much of a moderate. It's the typical thing you and I have seen in transitions in other countries. If she tries to be a moderate and go on bended knee to the Trump team, her own team will stab her in the back. And then we'll have to have a second wave of attacks on Venezuela, or the Trump team will stage a second wave, as they discussed last night. She's not going to go on bended knee. Venezuela, they will not make Venezuela a colony, and I think that this is going to be some very complicated days. Venezuelans cannot go out into the street to celebrate because A, they're confused, they don't know what comes next, and B, anybody who says, yay, they got Maduro, will be immediately captured and tortured.
Vanessa, so good to have you on.
It really seems like she just wants us to do a more thorough regime change. You know, she's probably not satisfied with this, which I guess makes sense because we nab Maduro, but everything else is the same. Well, I'm sorry, that got so unhinged, but I can't, like, I don't know. Yeah, that guy, there's so much of that stuff, man. Anytime they pop someone on, especially when they bring on somebody to talk about a foreign country, because they know they can get away with more to an American audience when they're providing insight on another country, right? Like they couldn't do this anywhere near as easily if they wanted to have an expert on say like a farmer, like what a farmer's life is like or whatever. They'll have business moguls, people who lie on, but they can't have somebody whose entire, well, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they will. I don't know. I'm just talking. My brain is mush. My brain is complete mush. Oh my God. Yeah, the reason you don't see Venezuelans out on the streets celebrating the fact that they've been bombed, their capital city has been bombed by America, it's because they're afraid of retaliation from the regime, you know? No other reason. No other reason.